I first saw this shirt many years ago. I don't remember exactly when, but it must have been around 2016 or maybe even earlier. And at the time, I didn't care about politics that much. I didn't know much about Trump. None of it really mattered to me. But, the shirt did bother me. I didn't really like it. It seemed a little too much. Like, wow, you really hate this guy, huh? And I didn't really understand where that hate came from. And I guess I just figured, well, these guys in this band, Municipal Waste, they must just be very educated about politics. And they just, they could probably sit down and explain it to me if I gave them a chance. Another part of me is going, well, maybe this is in the spirit of like B horror movies, which a lot of metal bands like Cannibal Corpse sort of flirt with. And I was a fan of Cannibal Corpse at the time. So I could see that campy sort of gore side of it as well. But if you think about Taylor Hawkins for a minute, let's take someone who isn't a political figure. He died shortly after the film Studio 666 was released. Now, in the film Studio 666, Dave Grohl, who's playing Dave Grohl in the movie, kills Taylor Hawkins, who's playing himself in the movie. And he kills him right after they're finished recording an album, a fictional album by a fictional band called, I think it's called Dream Widow. And on the same day that Taylor Hawkins died, Dave Grohl released the music that was of that fictional band Dream Widow, which he supposedly wrote it all. He released it on the same day that Taylor Hawkins died. And I'm not saying that's proof that, he's telling us, oh, we killed Taylor Hawkins or I killed Taylor Hawkins. But it makes you look at the film a little differently. That moment where Dave Grohl throws the cymbal and it chops Taylor Hawkins' head in half, and then he sticks his middle finger out at him. I mean, that's, it's harder to see the humor in it and just not take it as seriously. And so anyway, I'm making a comparison because someone tried to kill Trump 2 days ago. On July 13th, 2024. Someone tried to murder him, tried to shoot him in the head. And the bullet went through his ear because Trump turned his head at just the right moment and it hit his ear instead. So, I know there's a lot of people out there that really hate Trump and hate him so much they would like to see his head get blown off. And my mother is one of these people. Okay? And, we should talk about the back of this shirt too, because it's kind of this virtue signaling bullshit. Like, the only walls we build are walls of death. Well, in the first place, he's talking about the border. They're talking about the border wall. Like, oh, America, where Trump, is such an asshole and such a racist, and he hates all brown people, and because he's not letting them in the country just without vetting them or anything. Well, look what we have now today. Joe Biden's in office. The first thing he did was take the wall down, and he's letting in record numbers of illegals. And you know what's happening? The fentanyl overdoses are way up. The drugs are just pouring in. Fentanyl is now the greatest killer of Americans between an age range that's very wide. It's like 18 and 38 or something like that. It's the number one killer. And child trafficking is up. Child rape, human trafficking. It's all way up. And this is all run by the cartels. And they're getting rich. So you could almost say that the Biden administration is enabling the cartels and all of this violence and all this, this all sounds very good and all, like, we're not racist and we welcome illegals and blah, blah, blah. We welcome people from other countries. But it's kind of a lie for the sake of virtue signaling. And you could go even further and say, well, maybe this was a decision the band didn't make. Maybe it was something that was fed to them and they went, oh, cool, yeah, right on, ha, ha, ha. And it's just kind of ironic because punk rock, when it first came out, although I believe it probably was actually ultimately a product of the establishment initially, the idea of punk rock and heavy metal for me was rebellion, anti-establishment. Our messages are anti-establishment, and especially in the case of punk rock, it was about offending people. Sex Pistols and any number of bands, even Japanese punk rock bands, used to wear like swastikas and flirt with Nazi imagery, not because they believed in Nazism, but because it was offensive, and that was the point. They wanted to offend people. And I like the idea, I don't support Nazis, but I mean, I like the idea of rattling people's cages just to rattle them, because some people are just don't think that much. They just sort of go along with whatever the news says, whatever the mainstream says, and they've found a way to get kids in the underground, the quote unquote underground metal scene or whatever, death punk rock scene. They found a way to brainwash these people too. And what they do is they make sure that the bands all lean the direction of whatever the establishment is. And the establishment, let's face it, they've hated Trump from the beginning. Now, this thing about the only walls we build are walls of death. Okay, so I was at a Testament show many years ago, the band Testament. And they did this wall of death thing. And what it is they go, all right, you people on this side of the room, you go on that side. You go way over there, all you over there. And then you people over there, you go on the other side. And they direct the kids to go to opposite sides of the arena or whatever, or the club. And they go, all right, when I say go, go, and you go at each other in battle and pretend like you're Vikings and pretend it's some movie about Vikings where two armies are coming at each other, and you run at each other, and then the band starts the song. And I thought that was the coolest fucking thing ever. It's like, this is great, But if you think about it, it's pretty disturbing, because the message is we need to be divided. That's the message. And I feel like an old man from the fucking 30s or 40s or 50s when I'm saying this stuff, because I never thought I'd be saying this stuff, but you get older and you see how things occur in the world, and you start to realize that they are trying to divide and conquer us, and they use bands. They know where the rebellion starts. They know where they need to go to control it, and they're going to go straight to the underground, the quote-unquote underground, and that's where they're really going to concentrate their efforts. And, of course, the schools and the universities. They know where the kids are. They know they know where the quote-unquote free thinkers are. And those are the ones they really need to convert early, because too much free thinking means you're going to be thinking outside the box. So now anyone who thinks outside of the box is a far right, white Christian extremist. So anyhow, I'm not here to tell you about all the details and break all this down, this attempted assassination against Trump. I just thought it is an important historical event that I should probably just at least comment on and just give my point of view, and that's it. Call it quits. So, this is your typical, patsy / Manchurian candidate kind of situation. We've seen this going back to JFK. And, I know some people are going to be like, oh, don't compare Trump to JFK. I'm not comparing Trump to JFK. I'm comparing the scenario, the machine, the mechanism. It's very simple. They're very good at it. And when I say they, I mean the deep state, the establishment, who, they're very evil. And they know how to radicalize anyone in no time flat. And this 20-year-old kid, I don't know who he was. I don't think anyone really knows who he was. I don't think anyone really even knows if he's the one who actually shot Trump. It was probably someone else at a different, off to the side or something. But, this kid shows up and gets a ladder and climbs up on a rooftop, which is the type of position that the Secret Service surely would know about, because, when they're supposedly protecting someone, the president or a former president, they're supposed to be aware of all the different vantage points that would, a shooter might pick to kill someone. And it's just very clear that this was allowed to happen, okay? And anyone who's out there saying oh yeah, I'm glad the shooter tried to kill him, but too bad he missed, a few millimeters to the right or whatever. This is extremely ignorant and dangerous thinking, because it doesn't matter what you think of Trump. Maybe you hate Trump and think he should be killed, which is ridiculous. But, this is the same machine that killed JFK. This is the same machine that probably killed Dimebag Darrell. This is the same machine that probably killed Chris Cornell. And the same machine that, probably shot at Ronald Reagan and killed John Lennon. So, when we applaud the machine, we've become successfully brainwashed by the most evil aspects of our society, because it's one thing to do something in secret and then get found out later and sort of make excuses and use the legal system to sort of get around things. It's another thing to do it out in the open and have the approval of people. And that's what they've accomplished here. And that's what really scares me. Because I'll tell you what, The few people that I have talked to about this and that, want to see Trump dead are not intelligent people. And they're not fact-based people. They're about, this is how we feel and we don't like Trump and therefore he should die and that's just the way it is. And and another side of this is that, I'm sure some of you have kids out there. Imagine your 20-year-old kid wants to go up on a roof and assassinate a president. That's a suicide mission. He's going to die. Would you want your kid to go up there and get himself killed trying to shoot the president? You'd probably think of it differently if it were your child up there. And by the way, the alleged shooter, both of his parents are some type of behavioral therapists, which is very consistent with, your Manchurian Candidate or MK Ultra kind of scenario. Now, who had a motive to kill Trump? I don't think it was this kid who was a registered Republican, but also donated to Act Blue, Democrat entities, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense when you think about it. The fact is, Joe Biden is doing very badly in the polls, especially right now after that disastrous debate and then, subsequent interview. His numbers are way down. Trump's numbers are way up. The people are behind Trump. And it doesn't matter how many people say they hate the guy, he's a racist, he's a fascist, blah, 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 blah. The fact is, many people, non-white people too, all want to vote for Trump. He's more popular now than he ever has been. And in 2020, if you believe the numbers, which I don't, Trump got the second most votes of any president in history, beaten only by Biden, of course, who supposedly got 81 million votes, which I don't believe for a second. But what that says is the majority of the people have spoken, a large group of people. And this is not how a fascist gets elected. A fascist takes control by force. A fascist doesn't go, hey, who do you want to be your ruler, me or this other guy? Not by the consent of the people. Trump has the consent of the people. So what this shooting did is it took all the attention away from Joe Biden's declining mental faculties, which the mainstream media actually finally turned on Joe Biden, and they're acting like this just started happening yesterday. But if you look back a year, 2 years ago, I mean, the guy has been fumbling his words and talking like a guy with Alzheimer's for a very long time. They just somehow decided it's time to throw him under the bus. Okay, so they've been trying to put Trump in jail through these BS cases, which a lot of them were just dismissed, I believe, today. The prosecutor, Jack Smith, was found to be appointed illegally or not in the correct manner, so by Judge Cannon. So those are all getting thrown out now. So you can start to see that this attack on Trump to try and put him behind bars is just Joe Biden's Department of Justice going after their political opponent. That's all it is. They're trying to throw him in jail so he can't be president. That's not working. So what's the next step? Kill him. Just kill him. So that didn't work either. And brace yourself, because I think it's going to get even uglier.